I think there's some things that will put.
The House Chairperson.
There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Please be seated. The Secretary will read the order.
Debate on vote number 40, Transport Appropriation Bill.
I now recognize the Honourable Minister of Transport to introduce the budget vote. The Honourable Minister.
Honourable House Chair, Honourable Deputy Minister, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Honourable Members. As we gather today, we are all alive to the fact that the economic outlook faces several risks, including domestic constraints, global uncertainties that could hinder growth. Our state-owned entities operate in an environment that is not of our choosing. Accordingly, this will require leadership and foresight that prioritize the interests of our country and its people. Prompt execution of reforms in the logistics sector is essential to address and reduce the risks present. These risks include domestic issues such as port and rail constraints, as well as increased spending pressures along with global risks intensified by trade tensions and market volatility. Effective implementation of reforms is essential for boosting growth and employment. To give guidance to this huge ecosystem and focus the work of all of our entities on a common program to improve our passenger freight and logistics systems over the next 4 years, we are guided by 6 clear targets. The first is to ensure that by 2029, 250 million tons of freight are carried on the Transnet network. The second is to improve the speed by which we load and unload ships to the international benchmark of 30 gross crane moves per hour. To ensure our passenger rail system provides safer, reliable, and affordable transport to workers and their families, we aim to ensure 600 million passenger journeys by 2030. To boost the contribution of aviation to tourism, economic development, and job creation, we expect 42 million passengers and 1.2 million tons of air freight to move through the AXA network by the end of this political term. To ensure greater safety on our roads and reduce the devastating toll road accidents have on lives and livelihoods, we aim to reduce road fatalities by 40% by 2029, so we reach the UN target of halving road accidents by 2030. Fundamental to our rail reform program is our intention to re-establish rail as the backbone of transport for people and goods. Since we embarked on the journey to restore passenger rail services nationwide, I am proud to share that PRASA had, by the end of May 2025, successfully revived 35 of 40 corridors and sections of service lines, and we continue to deliver at pace, with PRASA achieving an unaudited figure of 77 million passenger journeys for the last financial year, aiming at 116 million passenger journeys for this financial year. Our competitive pricing model for commuter passengers will ensure that working-class commuters take advantage of our offerings. Total transfers to the agency amount to an estimated 66.1 billion over the medium term. This significant budget is for maintaining, recovering, and reviewing rail infrastructure, rebuilding the signaling system, rolling out new train sets to priority corridors so that we can increase passenger numbers. Our freight rail reform program is informed by the White Paper on National Rail Policy of 2022 and complemented by the National Freight Logistics Roadmap. This roadmap clarifies that strategic infrastructure such as rail and ports will remain in public ownership as assets belonging to the South African people. To this end, we must assure the country that we will do all in our power to rebuild and modernize our capabilities. We must also enhance the involvement of additional operators as a way of extending freight logistics capacity of the country and region beyond what the public sector alone can accomplish. It is important to point out that as an economy, we need freight logistics operators that can compete, but that can also complement each other when the need arises. The limited availability of state resources to fund infrastructure development makes private sector investment critical. To guide private sector investment in our 5 priority corridors, we have just concluded a request for information. Transnet will issue requests for proposals from the end of August and so begin the formal procurement process. In line with the private sector participation envisaged in the White Paper on National Rail Policy, Cabinet approved a PSP framework in 2023. The department has concluded an MOU with the Development Bank and National Treasury, appointing the Development Bank as the hosting institution for the unit. We have established the interim rail economic regulatory capacity to create fairness and transparency for third-party operators to improve network utilization, increase competition, and reduce costs. In December last year, the Department of Transport issued the network statement and rail access tariffs. Open access to the rail network will allow train operating companies to increase the volume of goods transported by rail while our network infrastructure remains state-owned. As part of the rail reform program, we have created the new Transnet Rail Infrastructure Manager to have a dedicated focus in the management of rail infrastructure. The Transnet Freight Rail Operating Company would now focus on the transportation of rail commodities through its rolling stock. To sustain our economy, we cannot afford to wait until the PSPs reach financial close. Funding sources for immediate rehabilitation of the 5 priority corridors include the current Transnet budget for rail and rolling stock maintenance, the purchase of port equipment, submissions to the National Treasury's budget facility for infrastructure, and private investment in refurbishing or expanding line capacity through existing customer agreements. As a result of the hard work by the Transnet War Room, port volumes were 54% higher at the end of last financial year than the previous year. Rail tonnage increased by 9 million tons and containers handled in our ports increased by 48,000 units. In order to meet our target of moving more than 42 million passengers per year and increasing air freight through the AXA network of airports, the entity has been allocated 21.7 billion for infrastructure development. This will improve facilities for passenger safety and comfort over the medium term and build a new freight terminal at OR International Airport. In addition, we are fast-tracking projects to ensure reliable availability of jet fuel to all airlines at our airports, as well as general upkeep and upgrading of facilities. This year, has seen the appointment of new members of both the Air Services Licensing Council and the International Air Services Council for a period of 3 years to regulate access to the domestic market based on the operator's ability to operate safe, secure, and reliable air services. Their functions include issuing air service licenses and taking enforcement action over non-compliance with the conditions of the relevant legislation and the licenses. The aviation branch has been instructed to develop an audit of all outstanding applications and review the license renewal process to cut red tape. In December last year, following widespread concerns regarding capacity and operations at the air traffic navigation services, I appointed a panel of experts to advise on the root causes of problems and ensure remedial measures. In January, we set up 4 different work streams, and these work streams include both ATNS executives and members of the Committee of Aviation Experts. Since February 2025, 37 successful recruitments have been made in key areas, ranging from air traffic controllers, investigation and safety specialists, engineering instructors, and program simulators. Funding sources for substantial progress is also in evidence with regard to building the ATNS internal training pipeline with 25 candidates recruited and currently undergoing validation. Similarly, progress is being made on ensuring the urgent upgrades of communication, navigation, and surveillance systems, and relevant processes are in progress to stabilize the upgrade of national air traffic management systems. Regarding the safety management system, we can report that safety findings from various audits by ATNS and Civil Aviation Regulator are being closed out. With respect to ensuring the availability of safe and compliant flight procedures across the country, we can report that a critical risk was averted with respect to the April 2025 suspension of flight procedures at our major airports. Nevertheless, there are still too many instances of operations that are dependent on alternative means of compliance and exemptions. This requires a degree of business unusual, and to this end, ATNS is putting in place a project office to drive the elimination of this current situation. Honourable members, the contribution of our state-owned airline, SAA, to the country's GDP was confirmed by a recent study by Oxford Economics Africa. According to the study, SAA contributed 9.1 billion to South Africa's GDP in the 23-24 financial year, a figure projected to more than triple by 29-30. SAA is pursuing a bold route of expansion strategy to strengthen its regional and global footprint. The airline has begun a measured fleet expansion to meet growing demand, reinforcing its role as a connector of economies across the continent. The airline has also concluded 3 out of 4 outstanding audits and reported a profit of 252 million in the 22-23 financial year for the first time since 2012. SAA is self-funding its operations and fleet growth while remaining open to a strategic equity partner as part of its long-term restructuring. Honourable members, the condition of our national roads and the feeder routes that connect them remain a cause for concern in the public domain. Accordingly, over the past year, national government, through its agency SANRAL, has requested, and at the request of provincial premiers, has taken over 3,099 kilometres of provincial roads, which we intend to upgrade over the medium term through the Route Road Maintenance Programme. Last year, the Auditor General found irregularities in the procurement of the new driver's license card machine, and it is a matter of public record that we have taken this process on self-review to the courts. The old card machine is currently fixed, and we're hard at work to clear the backlog. To ensure we have a backup solution, we have just signed an MOU with the government printing works. The taxi industry remains a major source of transport for the majority of South African commuters. Accordingly, formalizing the industry and rooting out criminality and irregular operations remains a key focus. In this regard, in line with other economic sectors, existing taxi associations have a fundamental and important role to play in self-regulation and governance. Our department is committed to working with the industry to reduce the cost of repayment of new vehicles and ensure a common process across all provinces for operator licenses that are linked to the term of loan repayments. Honourable members, the Department of Transport has been assigned shareholder responsibility for 16 public entities that operate within the transport sector to drive the priorities of the National Strategic Vision and the District Delivery Model. The entities under the Department of Transport are vital to delivering public value to our citizens. In this regard, the department will focus on ensuring accountability, good governance, financial stability, and operational capabilities. To this end, the department is creating a standard accountability model for its 16 state-owned entities. Honourable members, as I conclude, allow me to take this opportunity to thank Team Transport for all the hard work that has gone into turning around this huge ecosystem, including our Deputy Minister Klengwa, the Acting Director General, Mr. Mokonyama, all DDGs and senior managers, all chairs and CEOs of our entities, Chairperson Sela Molela, and all honourable members of the Portfolio Committee. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The next speaker is the Honourable Sela Molela.
Honorable House Chair, thanks very much. The Honorable the House Chair, the Honorable the Minister, Barbara Creasy, the Honorable the Deputy Minister, Klengwa, Honorable Klengwa, members of the Portfolio Committee on Transport, people of South Africa, friends, compatriots. Allow me to greet you this morning. Colleagues, compatriots, we come to you as the African National Congress at a time where we celebrate 70 years of Freedom Charter and recently concluded celebrations of the Youth Month and the Youth Day on the 16th June 2025. Honorable Chair, it was the learners of the 1976 on June 16 who marched against the injustice they experienced with the education system not respecting their culture, heritage, language, and providing a less primitive education when compared to the education system provided at the time to their white counterparts in our land. Honorable Speaker, as I've already mentioned, also that this year marks 70 years since the adoption of the most seminal documents in the history of our country, the Freedom Charter. In Kliptown on the 26th June 1955, under the progressive banner of the Congress of the People, the workers, the students, the mothers, the miners, the domestic workers convened, those who were people who had tasted the bitterness of the apartheid and dared to a dream of South Africa that belonged to all who live in it. The Freedom Charter, Honorable Chair, was not just a list of demands, it was and remains a moral compass and a declaration of the kind of South Africa we strive to build. A South Africa where no one is oppressed because of their race, language, belief. A South Africa where the doors of learning and culture are open to all. A South Africa where there is work, housing, security, and comfort. As the African National Congress, we support this budget vote as we believe that it will provide the foundation to further the agenda of enhancing inclusive growth through efficient and effective transport system in our country. The budget vote, Honorable Minister, inspires confidence as it is in alignment with the department's medium-term goals, which are to maintain South Africa's road network, support integrated road-based public transport networks, and invest in infrastructure to revitalize passenger rail services, freight, and logistic infrastructure. It is our conviction, honorable members, that this will enable favorable ground for expansion and employment development via service accessibility, inclusive economic activity, We want a budget that will have an impact on gross domestic product of our country, and we strongly believe that this is one. The department's overall budget for the next 3 years is expected to be 287.3 billion rands in rents, of which an estimated 91.5% will come from transfers and subsidies to provinces and municipalities at an amount of 101.3 billion rand in rents, and public entities and departmental agencies will have 161.8 billion rands through various grants. It is anticipated that the spending will rise from 86.4 billion rands in rents in 2024 to 2025 to 95.2 billion in 2027 to 2028 at an average annual rate of 3.3% with a substantial GDP contribution. Honorable members, the South African transportation industry is an essential part and a nucleus of our national economy. The industry, which includes freight, road, rail, air, sea, and logistics, is estimated to contribute to between approximately 6.5% and 9.3% of the gross domestic product. The success of other economic sectors depends squarely and largely on this contribution, which affects everything from trade and tourism to job generation and general economic progress, of which jobs are more needed, especially by our youth in the country. We believe that the current budget will invest in rail corridors infrastructure to revitalize passenger and freight rail services. 40.8 billion of the expected 66.1 billion in total transfer to the agencies over the medium term are designated for a capital expenditure. To fill financing gaps in the rolling stock fleet replacement program, the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa has been given priority over the South African National Road Agency for 2.8 billion over the MTEF term. The plan is to cut down on lead times. The nation must prioritize infrastructure upgrades, boost logistic effectiveness, and use technology to improve visibility and management in South African transportation-related supply chain. This entails making investments in rail, in ports, in roadways, streamlining transportation routes, and using technology such as automation and real-time tracking. We believe this budget will maintain our country's roads transport program, supports effort to maintain road network, constructs and upgrade our infrastructure while providing sufficient access to safer roads. Honorable Chair, over the medium-term expenditure framework period, the program is expected to receive 161.7 billion, of which 106.8 billion will go to South African National Road Agency, which is the main agency responsible for carrying out these goals, and we strongly believe that it's currently doing well in this regard. The non-toll network will receive 54.9 billion of the agency's share, where the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project will receive 19.3 billion. The N2 Wild Coast Project will receive 4.3 billion. The R573 Moloto Road Honorable Mabena Development Corridor will receive 3.2 billion, and 94.2 million will be used to test and deploy a single ticketing system for Gauteng public transportation that will enable commuters to use all public transportation facilities with a single pass. To increase trade within the SADC region, South Africa's transport infrastructure must be regionally integrated. To enable the free flow of people and commodities, this integration entails creating a unified regional transportation policy, enhancing transportation infrastructure such as roads and rail roads, and expediting trade and custom process. Integrated public transport system based on roads in Cape Town, here in Cape Town, in Ekurhuleni, in Gauteng, in George, in Johannesburg, in Nelson Mandela Bay, in Polokwane, Gabomarava, Skwala, Honorable, in Rustenburg, and in Tshwane. The department will distribute the public transport network grant to municipalities for infrastructure improvements and to cover the indirect costs of bus rapid transit services. Over the medium term, 22.4 billion will be allocated for the grant. Roads-based public transport service offered by the provincial transportations are subsidized by the public transport operations grant. We remain committed as this government to the reduction of logistic costs for global competitive environment to attract foreign investments. We do, however, understand that in order to lower logistical costs, boost global competitiveness, and draw in foreign investment, South Africa transportation industry remain essential and at the center. Efficient logistics system and better transportation infrastructure can save expenses for distributors and manufacturers alike, speed up deliveries, cut down on waste, and increase access to business knowledge. This increases the nation's appeal to foreign investors and providers. We need to acknowledge that we still need to improve our system as government to be better prepared for an unpredictable economic climate which directly affects transportation plan in this country. The transportation industry in our country has always been cyclical and highly dependent on the state of the economy. We need to address supply chain challenges which are affected by economy through a rising cost of living, extreme inflationary pressure, and sharply rising interest rates have all forced many businesses to adjust in recent years. Honorable members, maintaining successful operation in the face of all these challenges is a never-ending task, particularly when future events are unpredictable. For us, we believe that as we support the budget, Honorable Minister, there must be a mechanism to make sure that we implement our budgetary obligations. We need to create and develop strategies that underspending is further minimized by asking National Treasury to remove containment restriction pertaining to departmental openings so that appropriately qualified candidates can be appointed to management roles. Projects and implementation programs will benefit from this. Honorable House Chair, Honorable Deputy Minister, and Honorable Minister, honorable members, we are all aware of the challenges confronting many of our strategic entities. The intervention alluded to in this budget are meant to alleviate those challenges and return these entities to sound, prudent, and efficient running way. And we strongly believe, Honorable Minister, that you are on track in relation to this. And we have no doubt whatsoever that you will do all that is needed in this regard. Today, as we mark the Mandela Month, a month of selfless service to humanity, we commit to bring about stability and positive progress in the memory of a giant of our
Honorable
revolutionary
member, your
struggle,
time is now
Dr.
expired.
Nelson Mandela. The African National Congress moved to support this budget. I thank you. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is the Honorable Montana.
Thanks, House Chair, honorable members, honorable Minister, honorable Deputy Minister, honorable members, thank you. I stand on behalf of Mkhonto Wesizwe to debate the budget vote of the Department of Transport. Budget votes are about statements of various departments. Let me state from the outset that as the MKP, we reject vote 40 and we cannot associate ourselves with the policy direction of this department. We also reject the 40% increase in the fuel levy, which will bring more suffering to citizens, impose huge transport costs, and cause serious damage more than even the proposed VAT would have done. I'll detail some of this below. Clearly, Honorable Minister, the transfer of key strategic sectors in the hands of the largely untransformed white private sectors and foreign investors seems to be at the heart of your budget vote today. We are not surprised by all of this. In your first public statement as the new Minister of Transport, you did mention that you will engage with and take forward the work of the National Logistics Crisis Committee, which had been appointed by the President. The NLCC had not only set the agenda for the Minister of Transport, but its national roadmap has determined the work of a department. The main driver, of course, is structural reforms being implemented in various sectors of the economy, which forms part of the economic reconstruction and recovery plan. This commenced, of course, the minister has been at pains to clarify that this is not privatization. The state, she claims, will retain ownership of its transport infrastructure or assets. As the MKP, Honorable Minister, we do not have an in-principle opposition to private sector participation or competition in the transport sector. But the minister clearly does not appreciate how her current policy reforms and the specific private sector model she's pursuing, if allowed to prevail, will undermine the very capacity of the state and sustainability of the transport sector and its ability in the long term to meet the development needs of the country. We say, Honorable Minister, there are better policy alternatives and there are more efficient PSP models which could allow the private sector to thrive whilst addressing the development needs of the country. And I'll spend part of my speech to explain what I mean by that. But let me start by explaining what structural reforms really means, because these have nothing to do with the removal of impediments to growth or constraints bandied about by the government. Structural reforms are nothing else but the opening of key network industries like transport, energy, telecoms, and others, which were historically dominated by SOEs, and transferred the control of these to the private sector in the country and to foreign investors. Structural reforms have nothing to do with building the capacity of the state or transforming the South African economy. It has got nothing to do with industrialization through promoting local manufacturing and local content, or building a class of black industrialists, or stimulating new economic activity as it is. In the specific case of transport, it has nothing to do with changing the structure of transport that we inherited in 1994. The fallacy of these structural reforms is in the belief that by simply bringing the private sector, things will change by themselves. The private sector is viewed as inherently inefficient. No detailed operational improvement plans are needed for these network industries. The Minister of Finance keeps on telling us that structural reforms are about removing the constraints on the economy, but fail to provide the numbers in the budget showing the benefits of structural reforms across the economy or to measure the efficiency gains. All these are not costed anyway. You know, the introduction of competition has in many instances been accompanied by the requirements to separate infrastructure from operations and creation of regulatory authorities. But the design of suitable industry structure is key to the introduction of any competition minister. Competition authorities and regulations have therefore a legal and a moral duty to ensure that specific sector industry structure they approve are in the long-term interest of the specific sector and the economy at large. If they approve multiple operators in a specific sector, competition authorities should satisfy themselves that there will be adequate revenues generated to fund operations and maintenance, as well as capacity to meet future investment requirements. This is what is meant by the ability or capacity of an industry to recapitalize itself. Honorable Minister, competition and introduction of the private should not be a religion to be introduced blindly, irrespective of the consequences, the size of the economy, traffic volumes in the specific sector, revenues being generated from operations and market conditions. In fact, our assessment is that TRIM that you mentioned just now, Minister, will require billions of rands in financial support from the national fiscus from SLS 2026, with increasing funding requirements every year thereafter. The MK party says this is extremely responsible and should be rejected. This is the beginning of the destruction of our railways, a major setback for South Africa and its economy. The MK party rejects this plan being rolled out by the coalition government, which is not based on the demands of our people or our level of economic development, and lacks sound understanding and knowledge of the operations of Transnet. Even under this specific PSP, Minister, the private sector will be left with no option but to increase prices, because without vertical integrated industries like transport and energy, their operational costs will skyrocket. They will be forced to come to you, Honorable Minister, and ask for financial assistance from the government. This will be a merry-go-round. And we have seen the same madness being applied in the commercial ports. However, private sector participation in ports is not a new thing. There've always been private companies in port terminals. The distinct feature of the current period is that strategic port terminals, especially those dealing with petroleum products and liquid fuels, including storage facilities, are now being given away. In the context of the shifting geopolitical changes and the critical need to protect our national interests, particularly in respect of energy sources, it is vitally important for Transnet National Ports Authority to retain ownership and operational control of key strategic terminals in the port environment. We have looked at the budget, Honorable Minister. I mean, one of the major things is that it doesn't champion public transport transformation. We've seen how the taxi industry is being undermined. Out of 15.9 billion rands, you only allocate a mere 110 million rands for the taxi empowerment project and 408 for the taxi empowerment project, which is quite insignificant. And we want to say that Minister, you promised us that you will review the taxi recap program. It is not done. We've seen the underspending in your own department. In fact, when you analyze the numbers, the allocation to public transport has in real terms decreased by minus 167%. I mean, this is really unacceptable. In a country like ours, with this geography of apartheid where people live far from cities, surely public transport should feature high on the agenda. Honorable Minister, I saw you and the Minister of Finance celebrating about the allocation to PRASA. And I want to say that last year, government told PRASA to cut on the numbers. Now suddenly you are increasing. It's quite clear that it's got nothing to do with allocation to PRASA and championing public transport, but it has to do with the high penalties if you cut on
Honorable Member, your time is now
So on that
expired.
basis, Minister, we think that we should pursue alternative public transport. I thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honorable Mabena.
Ngiyathokoza Sihlalo. Allow me to begin my contribution in this house today by drawing on the ethical work of Dr. Jessica Flanagan, a renowned scholar in ethics and democratic values at the Shepson School of Leadership Studies at the University of Richmond. In her recent journal article titled Evaluative Consistency and Ethical Leadership, Dr. Flanagan argues that political and business leaders should be held to the same moral standards as everyone else. She calls this principle evaluative consistency and presents it as a direct challenge to evaluative exceptionalism, the misguided belief that leaders are entitled to operate by a different set of ethical rules. She goes on further to say that in line with evaluative consistency, there is a single set of moral principles applicable to all individuals, regardless of their leadership roles. This is in stark contrast with evaluative exceptionalism, the notion that leadership ethics should be evaluated by a different set of moral standards that do not apply to ordinary decision makers. That brings me to my core concern. What we witnessed in the Portfolio Committee on Transport on Wednesday, the 11th of June, was a blatant case of evaluative exceptionalism. The ANC, Action SA, Umkhonto weSizwe Party, and the EFF joined forces to hijack the meeting and turn it into a tribunal on the road accident fund. In doing so, they cast aside principle and process and openly undermined the authority of the Road Accident Fund Board, all in defense of a suspended CEO. This move, which flew in the face of good governance and accountability, appeared designed to grant a suspended official a platform to undermine the leadership of the board that appointed him and evade proper scrutiny. The Democratic Alliance refused to legitimize this farce and staged a principled walkout from the meeting once the suspended CEO of the Road Accident Fund was given a parliamentary platform to address the committee. We strongly condemn the actions of the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee for failing to protect the integrity of the committee and that of Parliament. This incident was not about transparency. It was about protecting vested interest and frustrating accountability. The DA subscribes to evaluative consistency and not evaluative exceptionalism. To this end, the DA was vindicated when the Gauteng High Court on Thursday, the 26th of June, 2025, delivered a scathing judgment in the same matter between the suspended CEO who had taken the Road Accident Fund Board to court, contending that his suspension by the board was unlawful and had petitioned the court to overturn the suspension and reinstate him. In delivering his judgment, Judge Mushwana stated that, and I quote, "The suspension affected by the board is lawful, rational, and reasonable. There is no factual or legal basis to declare the suspension to be unlawful irrational, or unreasonable. Mr. Litswalo has failed to establish a prima facie right, not even one open to doubt, and failed to demonstrate any apprehension of irreparable harm. He is therefore not entitled to any interdictory relief, whether interim or final. Close quote. This judgment vindicates the Road Accident Fund Board's decision and exposes the political theater we witnessed in Parliament for what it truly was. Honorable House Chairperson, it is worth noting that this application was dismissed with costs. A lesson to be learned here is that evaluative consistency should always trump the narrow interest of political handlers and principals who are compromised. A recent Sunday Times investigation revealed shocking details of how the suspended CEO squandered more than 10 million rands of taxpayers' funds on his own personal security. This included getting himself 9 bodyguards and 3 bodyguards for his wife. As if that was not enough, he also bought himself a 4 million rand armored BMW X5 and 3 VW Golf GTIs at a cost of 800,000 rand each as part of his bloated personal security detail, all at taxpayers' expense. All this while, the Road Accident Fund has thousands of pending claims that have not been settled, even to the point where the Road Accident Fund matters are clogging the Gauteng High Court roll. In a recent judgment in the Gauteng Division of the High Court, Judge Jan Swanepoel did not mince his words in what he terms, and I quote, a chaotic approach to litigation by the Road Accident Fund, which has resulted in huge losses of taxpayers' money, close quote. To further demonstrate the chaos that engulfs the Road Accident Fund, as demonstrated by Business Live, the Judge Jan Swanepoel was very clear that, and I open quote, the main problem lies with the Road Accident Fund, close quote. The Road Accident Fund did not deal with these matters properly, did not send lawyers to court to oppose applications. If it did not provide them with any instructions. This has resulted in default judgments. The fund would then apply to rescind the judgments, often on baseless grounds. Judge Swanepoel further stated, and I open quote, in this manner, huge sums of money, public money, it must be emphasized, are lost, close quote. Yet, we are told that the Road Accident Fund is the best performing entity. This is not true, and here is the evidence of taxpayers' monies going down the drain. Just last month in May, last month in May, Judge Swanepoel had to grant a 25 million rand default judgment because the Road Accident Fund did not send lawyers to court. In the same week, an additional 2 default judgments worth 50 million rands were granted, all because of the chaotic nature of the Road Accident Fund. Honorable House Chairperson, how did we get here? Let me paint you a picture of how we got here. The Road Accident Fund main activities and mandate is that of claims and litigation. That is the core function that makes up the existence of the Road Accident Fund. In the 2023-2024 Road Accident Fund annual report, it is noted that the following vacancies exist. Number 1, the Chief Claims Officer is vacant. Head of Claims Operations is vacant. Head of Legal Services is vacant. Head of People Management is vacant. Head of Enterprise Risk and Management is vacant. Head of Financial Management and Reporting is vacant. And to add salt to wound, guess what? The following executives are on suspensions. The Chief Executive Officer is on suspension, rightfully so. The Chief Investment Officer is on suspension. The systematic erosion of corporate governance at the Road Accident Fund was not by accident, but by design. Here is why. The suspended CEO was fulfilling the role of Chief Claims Officer and was also fulfilling the role of Head of Claims Operations. How on earth can one individual assume 3 C-suite positions in one entity at the same time, you may ask? Here is the answer. This is how systematic collapse for the purposes of capturing an entity is done. We are calling on the minister to retire the entire board and urgently appoint a new board and ensure that all vacancies at the Road Accident Fund are filled. Because even the person currently entrusted with the role of head of legal services at the Road Accident Fund does not even have a law degree. Honorable House Chairperson, we welcome the publishing of the request for information for the 5 priority lines as stated by the minister earlier, calling on the private sector participation, issued in March by the Minister of Transport. Transnet must accelerate the process to issue rail concessions on these 5 priority lines, given that the network statements issued in December 2024 and January 2025 have already provided a detailed pricing guideline. We believe the participation of the private sector will assist with injecting the much needed capital and expertise to provide relief to a constrained fiscus. We also support the vertical separation of Transnet and the proposal to create a fully fledged subsidiary in the form of the Transport National Post Authority. These are some of the good things that the department is doing. Honorable House Chairperson, in closing, not all is doom and gloom. Here is a silver lining. In terms of the integrated public transport network, where the Democratic Alliance governs, services are delivered efficiently and transparently, even under challenging conditions. According to the National Department of Transport, the DA-led City of Cape Town leads the nation in efficient, inclusive public transport delivery. The City of Cape Town has emerged as the leading implementing agent of the integrated public transport network, transporting 19.3 million passengers annually. This is almost half of the national total of 44 million trips recorded across the 9 operational municipalities. This stands as clear evidence of the Democratic Alliance-led city's commitment to providing safe, reliable, and accessible transport to all communities. Cape Town's implementation efficiency is further reflected in its financial performance, with the city having spent 59% of its allocated public transport network grant funding, the second highest expenditure rate nationally. Unlike many ANC-run municipalities where corruption, maladministration, inefficiency, and thuggery takes place, where grants are routinely withheld due to non-performance of these corruption-riddled municipalities, the City of Cape Town, which is led by Honorable Executive Mayor Giordini Hill-Lewis and his team, have made sure that the city continues to lead where others are failing. Cape Town continues to demonstrate sound governance and accountability in public spending. Honorable House Chairperson, thank you very much. Siyathokoza.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The EFF.
Debate is transport. Oh. Siyabingelela kumkhuzi wamabutho EFF. Sibingelela umongameli wenhlangano yabantu abamnyama elwela inkululeko nomnotho ezweni lethu. Sibingelela umhlanganyelwa umavula kuvaliwe uDikatika bhandi lomshini umshaye wendoda iphindelela. Umudlo webhantshi nenkinobho zalo umakhuluma eNingizimu Afrika qhaqhazela uDonald Trump le eAmerica. Sithi phezulu kwabo mfoka malema ungabisabayeka. Mongameli lenyanga kaNtulukazi uphawu olubalekile kwinhlangano yethu njengoba sobe sigubha iminyaka ye12. Sibiza ke wonke amalunga nabalandeli beEFF ukuthi bazojabula nathi eKhayelitsha ngomhla ka26 kuyona lephezulu lapho sobe sijabulela khona ukukhula kwenhlangano yethu. Inhlangano enobuholi obukhethwa abantu, hayi umhlanganiso nje wasemakhoneni. Now, House Chair, today we stand here to reject this budget vote of the Department of Transport. This budget is an indictment on the department's persistent failures, a department that lacks a transformative vision, a department that has a consistent inability to deliver for the working class and the poor. How can we support a budget that fails to resolve chronic failures and collapse of national, provincial, and municipal roads? Our people are dying daily on the roads, yet this department is obsessed with celebrating minor victories and road fatalities over an Easter weekend. while a week later, over 20 people die in a single road accident in the Eastern Cape. We are led by content creators here. People who are obsessed with cameras and want to be famous. This budget vote reflects a department that is trapped in bureaucratic inertia, a department addicted to consultants, paralyzed by outdated organization structures, and is unable to modernize the transport infrastructure in a way that shall serve our people. We see no plans or evidence in this budget that seeks to revive Transnet and to get many trucks off our roads. How many more lives must die on the roads in order for this department to act decisively to save our people? Currently, as the EFF, we continue to mourn the lives of our 10 beloved fighters who lost their lives in a tragic accident involving a truck in Vryheid on the 16th of June. To support this budget would be to dishonor their memory. Our heroes died before their time, all because of a careless government that has no interest in serving our people. There is heavy reliance on consultants in this budget, especially in rail transport. There is a ridiculous increase of over 86.2% for consultants. This is an admission by the department that it does not have the necessary state capacity to deliver on its core mandate. It is a department that heavily relies on outsourcing of its work, just so to sustain patronage networks for the ANC and to feed those corrupt tenderpreneurs at the expense of service delivery. The department has presided over the spectacular failure of the taxi recapitalization program. Thousands of old and unsafe vehicles remain on our roads, endangering commuters and undermining any genuine transformation in the public transport. It's a sobonane mathuneni kind of situation. Bayafa abantu bethu nikhona, Minister. GoDurban in eThekwini remains inoperative, despite the fact that infrastructure in Corridor C3 has been completed and should be live. Yet nothing is happening. The ministry has once again demonstrated cowardice and poor leadership in resolving the issues of eThekwini. Instead of mitigating the disputes and finding consensus between taxi operators and a municipality, the department has chosen to bully the situation by withholding the grant that is critical to completing that project. We can tell you now, Minister, that this approach is only inviting further problems for yourself. House Chair, let us warn about the systematic destruction that is happening at the Road Accident Fund. We see you and you shall be exposed. The department has engineered a crisis at RAF, a crisis that does not exist, all because certain politicians, including the DA, by the way, want to satisfy the greed of white capital, in particular, the owners of this car. You must keep quiet when I'm talking. Minister, you must tell us if you were appointed by Discovery Medical Aid to be the Minister of Transport, because we must know exactly how to treat you. I don't understand why Discovery will write you a letter and give you an instruction to fire the CEO of RAF. What interest does Discovery have in the Road Accident Fund? Why are you being given instructions by Discovery? Everything that we see happening now at RAF is nothing but the execution of the wishes of white business and Stellenbosch, the funders of the DA. So you must continue and bury those who advocate for true transformation. But the people of South Africa see you, and one day they shall judge you harshly. So, Chair, the EFF will not endorse this budget, a budget that allocates over 95 billion in public funds, but has no credible plan for the radical transformation. Let's give you a bit of solutions. As the EFF, this is what we demand. A decisive end to department's addition to consulting and outsourcing of work. Just go and utilize the EFF cardinal pillar number 3 and build state capacity. I'm giving you solutions, Minister. Don't say I don't teach you anything. Let's get immediate reform of PRASA, Sanral, and Transnet with strict performance-based contracts and community oversight. Urgent finalization of the road infrastructure funding policy with guaranteed allocations to rural roads. Subsidize public transport for the unemployment and for low-income household. Utilize until these measures, Minister, and more, which I will send to you in writing, are finalized and implemented, the EFF rejects this budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Adebe.
Thank you, House Chairperson. The IFP notes and welcome an essential budget that lies at the very heart of South Africa's economic recovery, special justice and community safety, and one whose mandate aligns closely with the IFP's long-standing vision of connecting people to opportunities through safe, reliable, and equitable mobility. At the outset, The IFP commends the Department of Transport for its firm commitment to revitalizing the country's transport infrastructure in line with the President's 2025 State of the Nation Address priorities, the repair of roads and bridges, the modernization of ports and airports, the recovery of commuter rail services, and, enabling Transnet to function optimally. We are encouraged by the department's allocated budget of 80.6 billion, which reflects the scale of the task ahead, while we note that by the end of the second quarter, 39.9 billion has been spent. We appreciate the department's transparency in reporting spending trends and its intentions to accelerate disinvestment in the second half of the year. That said, we encourage the department to continue prioritizing efficiency in transfers and subsidies, especially those linked to strategic interventions like the taxi recapitalization program and the ARTO national rollout. The IFP believes these initiatives must reach beneficiaries in a timely and transparent manner. We therefore propose that the department continue enhancing stakeholder communication and application systems to reduce delays. We also commend the department's effort to contain costs and apply prudence in human resources. However, the IFP notes that compensation of employees sits at only 48.2% of its allocation, largely due to vacancies. While we support the principles of fiscal discipline, we caution that excessive delays in filling critical posts may weaken capacity, particularly in provinces with backlogs in infrastructure planning and maintenance. We urge the department to work closely with the Department of Public Service and Administration to unlock key appointments without compromising oversight. Regarding the taxi industry, we continue to support inclusive efforts to uplift this sector, which remains the backbone of public transport. We call on the department to ensure that recapitalization and compliance processes are simplified and accessible, especially to small and informal operators. A healthy taxi sector is a cornerstone of both safety and economic mobility. In every province, from Umkhanyakude to Matatiele, it is transport that determines whether a child can reach a classroom, whether a business can deliver its goods, or whether a job seeker makes it to an interview. The IFP acknowledges that this department is not just a builder of roads, it is a builder of dignity. In conclusion, the IFP accepts the budget vote not as a blank check, but as a contract for delivery. Delivery that is ethical, inclusive, and felt by the people of South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Van Staden.
Dankie, voorsitter. Voorsitter, ek dink die minister en die adjunkminister het 'n departement geërf wat moeilik omkeerbaar gewees. En die departement is besig om die burgers van die land te val en die departement is nie net besig om ver tekort te skiet met die uitvoering van sy oorsigrol oor die provinsiale departemente van vervoer nie, maar ook met die dienslewering wat hy veronderstel is om aan die publiek te lewer. Met 'n totale begroting van 95.7 miljard vir 25-26 boekjaar word dan maar slegs 'n bedrag van 70.9 miljoen beskikbaar gestel vir die ontwikkeling en implementering van 'n volhoubare en betroubare padinfrastruktuurnetwerk. Dit terwyl daar beweringe gemaak word van korrupsie met die multimiljard rand N3 hoofweg opgraderingsprojek tussen Durban en Pietermaritzburg wat ongeveer 79 km beslaan en hierdie projek word tans geskat op 'n waarde van 29 miljard rand. Dit terwyl die toestand van noodsaaklik paaie in die Vrystaat in 'n haglike toestand is en bouwerk al vir jare sloer en dit terwyl slegs 35% van Gauteng se provinsiale paaie wat sowat 5000 km beslaan in 'n goeie toestand is. Ons ervaar tans probleme by die padongelukke fonds waar die hoofuitvoerende beampte geskort is en om tot die Hooggeregshof gewend het om sy skorsing te keer en daar uitspraak gelewer is dat sy skorsing van krag moet bly. En die entiteite so die mekaar. Ons het in 25 Junie met die portefeulje komitee met hierdie entiteit vergader en dit is duidelik dat hulle nie kop of gat uit of stert uitmaak, skus tog, vir die chaos wat tans daar in die entiteit aan die gang is nie. Die wil ontbreek ook tans om probleme met die drukmasjien van die bestuurderslisensiekaartmasjien vir eens en vir altyd uit te sorteer. Hierdie masjien wat tans 26 jaar oud is, moet dringend vervang word en die VF+ het reeds vrae hieroor aan die minister gerig. Ons sou ook graag weet wat gaan die DLCA maak met 'n begroting van 379 miljoen vir 25-26 en ek dink dit is tyd dat hierdie entiteit voor die komitee gedaag word. The cash injection, the Transnet received of 51 billion rand from government in the form of a state guarantee have saved the entities downgrading by Moody's ratings. Transnet did not have enough cash to finance its operation. Transnet must use this money to settle its debt over the next 5 years. Moody's had indicated that we will monitor the situation. However, the Freedom Front Plus is of the opinion that this problem of Transnet will not be resolved and eventually they will run out of cash again. Transnet received a state guarantee in 2023 for the amount of 47 billion that is already depleted. State guarantees will not be a permanent solution to Transnet problems. The question must be asked, for how long do we want to give cash injections to state entities that is clearly not in a position to do business as usual? It is of great concern that with the cash constraints at Transnet, they still gave an increase of 6% over the next 3 years to their staff members. The taxpayer must now bear the cost. The taxpayer are not a cashless ATM machine. PRASA ontvang tans 'n bedrag van 18.35 miljard vanaf die departement. Meanwhile, it is reported that PRASA has paid contractors 2.5 billion rand to repair all trains that are not in use and being dumped in depots all over the country. PRASA need to come and explain to the committee what is the reason for this. Rather sell these unused old trains in order for the entity to receive a cash injection. The bus rapid transport system is nothing more than a waste of money, as some of these projects have come to a complete standstill in places like Rustenburg in Northwest. The department should take control of the situation and see to it that these projects be completed in order to provide a sustainable and reliable public transport system to the citizens of South Africa. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Kobe.
Thank you very much, House Chair. House Chairperson, Action SA cannot support Vote 40 on transport in its current form. While the Department of Transport plays a vital role in enabling growth and connectivity, this budget once again fails to deliver real solutions to the systemic failures that define our transport sector. South Africa's railway system under PRASA remains dysfunctional despite a massive 22.9 billion allocation. Although the department claims 31 of 40 corridors have been restored and over 200 modern trains deployed, this has not translated into reliable service for commuters. Infrastructure remains vandalized, signaling systems are incomplete, and safety incidents persist. Without visible recovery or accountability, this budget rewards failure and not progress. Worse still, taxpayers are paying for an outdated general overhaul project where 2.5 billion was spent to resurrect the yellow fleet, which lies rotting in our depots. This project, Chairperson, I can assure you, isn't aligned with South African commuters' priorities, but with the priorities of corrupt politicians and officials. House Chair, I spent a significant part of my constituency time in Ekurhuleni, where the people of Davidton looked at me in the eyes and said, please ask the minister, when will we get our trains back on track? Our population is growing, our roads are congested, and the public system is highly fragmented, causing a vicious cycle that keeps our people disconnected, marginalized, and the economy stifled. Solutions will cost money, but if the systemic issues are not addressed, we will continue to throw money into a bottomless pit. The minibus taxi industry, relied on by millions of South Africans, remains neglected. The long promised public transport subsidy policy has not yet been approved, and the so-called empowerment model has not materialized into tangible support. While the taxi recapitalization program continues, the lack of formalization, regulation, and infrastructure investment is a glaring omission. Meanwhile, the Road Accident Fund continues to drain public finances without reform. The proposed road accident benefit scheme bill remains stalled, yet billions are poured into the RAF despite its administrative collapse and growing liabilities. The latest impasse between the department, the board, and CEO is a glaring example of the failures of this multi-billion rand entity. Road infrastructure is also in poor shape. Despite large allocations to Central and provinces, the committee's report highlights ongoing potholes, crumbling bridges, unsafe roads, particularly in rural areas. I must remind you, Honourable Minister, that road infrastructure is not merely concrete and tar. It is quite literally an essential part of our constitutional rights to access health, to access education, and economic opportunities. And the state of our roads in rural Eastern Cape, Limpopo, and Mpumalanga are a direct violation of those human rights. Worryingly, the department is ramping up on spending on consultants, 628 million in the 2025-2026 financial year, while critical posts remain vacant and the organizational structure remains outdated. Just last month, young people sat in this very chamber lamenting about the 43.1% unemployment rate, yet your department sits at a vacancy rate of 15%. This is not a sign of reform, unfortunately, but a sign of dysfunction. House Chairperson, this budget is not a roadmap to better transport. It is a continuation of broken promises and mismanagement. Action SA cannot support this report.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The next speaker is the Honorable the Deputy Minister of Transport.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson, Honorable Minister Chrissy, the DG, Honorable members, and all our entities. Chair, maybe just very briefly so that one doesn't get sidetracked, just few things to correct. Honorable Montana, the whole issue around alternative transport may find itself wanting because we are actually speaking about the entire ecosystem of transport in trying to fix it. So if you speak alternative transport, then I can only assume you want us to ride broomsticks by Harry Potter. We're fixing roads, we're fixing aviation, we're fixing maritime, we're fixing aviation, and the entire ecosystem is receiving our focus. Honorable Mabena, the successes you speak about in Cape Town, particularly around PRASA remains an entity of the National Department of Transport and not that of Cape Town. Honorable Blose, I think it would be irresponsible for us to litigate the report around the very tragic set of circumstances that led to the loss of life of EFF members from this podium, and we have indicated we'd want to engage with the leadership of the EFF on those realities. The irony, of course, is then you go and speak about content creation, being the minister and myself, but you go and quote content creation in your own speech. So it's a case of the kettle calling the pot black, but the content creator is clearly yourself, and I hope the sound bites actually help you moving forward. Then on the issue of signaling, Honorable Kobe, this very budget actually speaks about signaling being provided for. So it's quite an irony that in your projected extent of reading, that one certainly fell through the cracks. Honorable House Chairperson, it is once again an honor and a privilege for us to table this budget vote here today, because it's our understanding that our department carries the weight of a nation's mobility and economic lifeblood, connecting people, enabling trade, and serving as a platform for development, transformation, and opportunity. In a country still grappling with spatial inequality and the legacies of the past, transport is not just infrastructure, it is liberation. Honorable members, Minister Chrissy has, in the interests of organized, streamlined oversight in the department, delegated to myself the responsibilities of the Road Transport Management Corporation, RTIA, the Cross-Border Transport Agency, SAMSA, the Road Accident Fund, and the Ports Regulator. And in addition, I am charged with the responsibilities of public road safety and the Provincial Roads Maintenance Grant. And I want to thank the Minister for her guidance and leadership in the exercise of my responsibilities. We want to state up front that road safety remains one of the most urgent developmental and public health imperatives of our time. Every year, 12,000 lives are lost on South African roads, leaving behind broken families, burdening the healthcare system, and costing our economy an estimated 200 billion rands annually. This is not just a transport issue, it is now a national crisis. Guided by the medium-term development plan, the minimum program of action and service delivery of the Government of National Unity, we are focusing on high-impact coordinated interventions that speak directly to the lived realities of our people. In line with the United Nations Decade of Action, we have committed to halving road fatalities by 2030, and encouragingly, our efforts are beginning to yield measurable results. In the first 5 months of 2025, fatal road crashes have declined by 8% and fatalities have decreased by 9% compared to the same period last year. Honorable Bloss is now not here. These are not just statistics. They represent saved lives, trauma prevented, and hope restored. We are currently in the process of finalizing the review of the National Road Safety Strategy, building on the 2016-2030 framework. The revised strategy strengthens our focus on the 4 E's: enforcement, engineering, education, and evaluation, with a specific focus on pedestrians who continue to form a high part of fatalities, currently standing at 45%. Law enforcement remains the backbone of our response. While budget constraints and labor-related matters have hampered our full implementation of the 24/7 operations, we have continued to deploy the National Traffic Police strategically across the country, and provinces are now rolling out the flexi-shift systems with a renewed focus on evening patrols where many high-risk incidents occur. Honorable members, the journey of reforming the transport ecosystem must be underpinned by institutional progress and modernization. We are diligently working towards the rollout of ARTO, a necessary step in establishing a culture of accountability on our roads. Similarly, the reform of the Road Accident Fund is underway to restore the fund's financial health and ensure the fair, timely, and compensation of victims. The Provincial Road Maintenance Grant remains a vital tool for preserving our existing infrastructure, particularly in rural areas where roads are the lifeline of our economic activity, access to healthcare and schooling, and will continue to monitor the efficiency and transparency in the use of this grant, and also with the establishment of the follow the money operations that we have undertaken as the national department to make sure that funds are correctly used at provinces. A cornerstone of our strategy for road safety, amongst others, as I've said, is ARTO, and it is poised to fundamentally change how we address traffic violations and promote compliance. The implementation of phase 2 of ARTO beginning on the 1st of December 2025 will be a significant step in our broader efforts to reduce road fatalities and ensure due regard for all the rules of the road and compliance. We are piloting in 69 municipalities that are prepared for the rollout and will continue to monitor the state of readiness in each of our municipalities. The MRCC in Cape Town continues to good work insofar as maritime safety is concerned, and as we broaden our focus on transport safety, we must address the critical challenges beyond road transport. For example, the commercial fishing vessels safety compliance audit conducted at the instruction of the department and ministry in collaboration with SAMSA serves as an important reminder that safety standards must be enforced. The first phase of this audit took place in PE with 65 inspections that were carried out on fishing fleets. This audit revealed numerous safety compliance issues, and we anticipate the audit team's report to reach us by August. On the Road Accident Fund, which remains a cornerstone to supporting commitment of individuals injured in road accidents, the Road Accident Fund has actually faced severe operational and financial challenges, including escalating liabilities, systemic inefficiencies, and prolonged delays in processing compensation claims. These issues have eroded public confidence and placed undue strain on accident victims awaiting relief. We are, as the ministry, working towards the stabilization of the RAF, but further, we are going to decisively deal with the challenges as we bring about the Road Accident Benefit Scheme, which amongst others will ensure a no-fault compensation system, defined benefits, faster direct payments, structured long-term benefits paid in annuities instead of lump sums, ensure the exclusion of foreign nationals illegally ones as well. and also a medical-based claims processing system and an integrated data claim system. So we are en route to ensuring that the REF is fit for purpose and is able to respond to its mandate. The provincial roads maintenance grant at 16 billion rands allocation specifically earmarked for roads through national budget in the medium term. And it is our commitment to ensure that the fund is able to fulfill its own obligations as well and distributed more effectively across provinces based on the actual road conditions, maintenance backlogs, and disaster response, with a specific focus to deal with new projects and actually deal with the backlogs as well. As I've said, we have established the Follow the Money audit team, which will monitor the use of the PRMG. We cannot overlook the importance of cross-border logistics in ensuring the safety and efficiency of our transport system, and the regional integration strategy approved by Cabinet in March 2024 focuses on improving our cross-border transport efficiency to promote regional economic growth and stability, and we are making strides to digitizing our borders. As we constitute the single transport economic regulator, the Ports Regulator South Africa will form the nucleus of the new entity where necessary to ensure that there is no interruption or disruption to the work that needs to be done. The assurance we want to give to this House is that the ministry is one, the department is hard at work, and we are making progress to turning things around. Those who say there's no progress, if you read actually the transport report of the first quarter of this year, on every indicator, we have proven that we are making inroads, more people riding trains, more people on our roads. We are moving on the logistics work. So we are hard at work. The doomsayers are completely lost. In conclusion, I want to extend my deepest appreciation to Minister Creasy for her unwavering support, mentorship, and guidance in my new responsibilities, the acting DG, the ministerial staff, the entire department, and all our entities. Together, colleagues, we are working towards a future
Thank
where
you
the
very
tragic
much,
loss of lives will
Deputy
become a
Minister.
thing of the past. I thank you.
The next speaker will be the Honorable Tring.
Honorable House Chairperson, the Department of Transport's 25-26 budget of some 95 billion appears ambitious on paper, but beneath the surface lies a troubling pattern of bloated transfers, sluggish implementation, and a widening gap between policy intent and lived reality. A vital step towards integrated and accountable transport governance was to establish a single transport regulator covering road, rail, shipping, and aviation in the Economic Regulation of Transport Amendment Act. It bears reminding that in May 2025, the ACDP flagged delays in its implementation due to a simple date error. In this department, the ACDP sees a litany of poor governance, beginning with PRASA. Despite a 66.1 billion allocation over the MTEF, commuters are still waiting for ghost trains. The rolling stock renewal program is behind schedule, plagued by underspending, infrastructure vandalism, poor management, corruption, and theft, has decimated the use of our rail services. In 2010, passengers completed over 500 million journeys. Currently, this number, as indicated by the minister, sits at around 77 million journeys, with no sense of urgency by the department. Transnet receives billions of rands for freight corridors, yet the truck booking system is still problematic. Kilometer-long queues of trucks are seen at our ports, and these inefficiencies and rail bottlenecks continue to choke our economy. The provincial roads maintenance grant of some 53 billion rand over the medium term is meant to fix our crumbling roads. Yet in many provinces, potholes multiply while targets remain unmet. In an Eastern Cape ruling earlier this year, failure to maintain roads was declared a constitutional violation and a dereliction of duty. The 2023 South African Human Rights Commission inquiry found that in the Eastern Cape, less than 10% of roads are paved, and poor road conditions are directly violating residents' rights to healthcare, education, and safety. The Weli Sizwe Rural Bridges Program, announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa in 2022, has only 11 completed bridges from a target of some 288 by the end of 25-26 financial year. This budget fails the test of transformative infrastructure. It is heavy on allocations, light on delivery. And as Kingdom stewards, the ACDP cannot support this budget vote. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Thring. The UDM. Honorable Ghana.
Nakenza Msomashitolo. So this morning I rise on behalf of Rise Mzansi, a movement that's committed to building a safe, prosperous, equal, and united South Africa in one generation. I rise on behalf of South Africans who needs a safe, reliable, and affordable transport. The Department of Transport is not just about moving people and goods. It's about moving our nation forward. Transport sits at the heart of economic growth, job creation, and access to opportunity. Without safe, reliable, and affordable transport, there can be no prosperity for all. South Africans deserve to feel safe when they travel, whether by road, rail, or air. Yet we are losing far too many lives on our roads every single day. Road safety cannot be seasonal. It cannot be a campaign where we dust off Easter and again in December. It must be permanent, always on campaign, backed by action and real-time data. Monthly accident statistics must be released so that we can decisively and urgently attend to this matter. We know that the budget of just over 95 billion allocated, the bulk of which will be transferred to provinces, municipalities, and public entities. This places a heavy burden of oversight and accountability on the national department. This department must follow the money, every cent of it, to ensure that it translates to safer, cleaner, and more accessible transport system for the people of this country. Oversight must not be an afterthought. It must be embedded in how this budget is managed. As Rise Mzansi, we welcome the 23 billion that has been allocated to rail transport. South Africa cannot thrive without a functional PRASA and a competitive Transnet. Rail is not just transport, it's economic infrastructure. And here again, I stress that agency oversight is key. The Road Accident Fund should serve as a warning and not a model to be replicated elsewhere. Honorable members, we must be clear that to the department and its entities that as Rise Mzansi, we welcome the Scopa inquiry into the evidence of an allegations of maladministration, financial impropriety, and the misuse of public funds at the Road Accident Fund. Let no stone be left unturned. Lastly, Chairperson, it is frankly unacceptable that in 2025, we are still waiting for a new driver's license printing machine, Minister. Can we sort this matter out? These backlogs are not helping the people of South Africa. Let's move the people of South Africa forward. The
next speaker will be the Honorable Maimane.
Thank you, honorable members. Thank you, and good morning to the honorable minister and deputy minister and the team that is here. It bears no repeating the fact that when South Africa faced an economic crisis during COVID and the war that was sparked between Russia and Ukraine, the demand for coal surged. Most coal makers became quite clear that it was an opportunity for South Africa to export its coal to other markets that were in demand. But what was an opportunity meant that we could only realize some of it by being able to see a budget surplus in that year, but we couldn't realize the fullness of it because our ports were not functioning at the level that they could have. So I speak on this budget vote today because I certainly am passionate about transport being an economic enabler. We cannot sit this aside. Logistics are the backbone of any economy. And therefore, Minister, there are a number of issues that I felt it important to raise as we speak about how do we build an effective rail system. There's no debate that leadership across the department is something that is important that we recapacitate. There are a number of senior executives that are finishing their term, and the sooner we can replace DGs, etc., to be able to create the appropriate leadership, that's going to be important. Secondly, I think there can be no doubt that road infrastructure in this country and the goods that move off our roads, I support your view that trucks need to move off our roads onto rail, but I want to speak about the one road that seems to be the department's expenditure flagship item. Minister Moloto Road is costing us 90 million rand per kilometer. This is only in the medium term. You compare that to China, for argument's sake, they are spending at least 40 million rand per kilometer. This is a serious concern that South Africa is building roads at such an exorbitant cost. Furthermore, Minister, I want to welcome the opportunity that South African Airways has turned itself around. I believe the leadership there is doing an important job. What is going to be important, it has a revenue shortfall, and therefore an equity partner may be a conversation we need to have in the future. As it pertains to PRASA, of course, I, like many South Africans, are heavily reliant, we used to grow up using trains, etc., and we need to see rail being revitalized. So I welcome your opening of a number of stations across the country, but also know the fact that it's going to be important that for the cost of a worker to get to work, this cost must be reduced. I leave you with this one thought, Minister. I think rather than us trying to solve problems of yesterday, I wonder if we couldn't think about transport, about problems of the future, and answer the question, is there feasibility in being able to put a bullet train between Limpopo, Gauteng, Free State, in order to enable the incorporations of those provinces and make sure there's economic opportunity? The last rail that we built cannot be the Gauteng train. I would argue that this is an opportunity for us to think about the future rather than yesterday. I support this budget.
Thank you very much, Honorable Maimani. Honorable Zungula. Al Jama. The NCC. The UAT. The Honorable Malimacha.
Thanks, House Chair, Minister, DM, honorable members, fellow South Africans. A functional and integrated transport infrastructure is essential to South Africa's social and economical development, according to National Development Plan. It seeks to accomplish this by creating and maintaining competitive and effective transportation infrastructure such as public transportation, railroads, and highways. The NDP also emphasized the necessity of a better public transportation service and smooth integration of various types of transportation. The African National Congress in South Africa seeks to implement an integrated transport system in South Africa through ANC-led government, which will further enhance trade and tourism through civil aviation. Minister, it will be a very naive kind of position to stand here not to acknowledge the good work that you have done, the good work that has been proven during the Easter holidays. As comparing to the numbers of yesteryears, the performance was excellent. Many more lives were saved. If there's any person, maybe who don't have television, radio, worse if he's a member of the parliament, don't have these figures and cannot acknowledge this, is a default member of this house. And it's not by mistake that at some stage you find people want to compare the good and the bad, forgetting that in South Africa to judge and categorize that this is bad is when on Monday people are heading to Palm Ridge Small Court. You don't just go there because you are invited. In many cases, you'll find that among those who are there are the MK party members. That will be Mr. Siabonga Gama and Brian Mulev. They went there for the money they have misused, and they are now there. Now, how do then say that is a good public investment, whereas they've squandered the money and nothing arrived in the country? You see, it is not correct that we stand to defend things that we have a little knowledge of it. Honorable Montana.
Malimaja, can you please take a seat?
Oh, thank you.
Honorable Montana.
Chair, can I raise a point of order on the member, not only. Yeah, no.
Can you address me?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the honorable member is saying that with the members, one of the members who, and he mentioned that by name, Honorable Gama, with the monies that never arrived. Now, I think non-casting aspersion, but also misleading the House. Because I think that if indeed there are monies that didn't arrive, I urge the honorable member to put in a substantive motion and demonstrate where these numbers are, because they are not even before the court as things stand. Chair.
Honorable Montana. Honorable Montana. I missed where he mentioned the name. Can I make a ruling after? Can you please take your seat?
Yeah, no, I accept that, Chair. As long as it desists moving forward, Chair.
Take your seat. Honorable Malimaja.
Thank you, House Chair. Honorable Minister, 2 weeks ago, I took a journey from Jamestown to Polar Park in a train, very beautiful train, with a lot of masses. Then I asked them, where are they from? They said, we are from Davidton in Ekurhuleni. We are going to Polar Park. Those who are not new in the history of South Africa, you remember what happened in Polar Park. Now that commemoration, they went there. Then I asked them about the journey in a new train. They said, pass this to the government of the day, that we are very much happy. Today we can attest that things are moving all over. Then because they were from Davidton, Minister, those who were from Davidton, and very patient people, ask, and so when are you coming to us? I say you are on the line, because we are starting with those that we can easily vanish, and will be attending you. They said I must pass this to the government of the day, that no one must ever attempt to speak on their behalf. They will wait. They will wait. House Chair, the danger of getting into marriage without understanding the terms and conditions is that some other marriages have got rules. In the GNU, we've got collective. So whatever that is happening when we are there enjoying the blue light, you are bound by the collective decision of the government. So the DA has got this tendency of coming in time and again being offline, leaving their lone lane and think that they can here compete for who must be the next deputy minister after we fired that one who was ill-disciplined. Now, it can't be correct that to stand here and say the chairperson, singling the chairperson of the portfolio committee in which you were part of that particular sitting, when a decision was taken that we will want to hear the other side of the story of the person who's alleged to be suspended, because we doubted, because we never had full information of that. And you clapped hands and agreed. Today, because there are televisions, today, because the master will draw you, you come here and think you can be smart of us. It's not how it's supposed to not. House Chair, allow me to continue by saying we are very worried, all of us. Worried about the vandalism of infrastructure. And it must not be reduced to a mere portfolio committee, to one department. It must be a concern to all of us. And if indeed we are true leaders of the society, let us be seen on the ground conducting campaign and ensure that people are refraining from continue vandalizing that. Because we can now see and test the boat if in case things are in order and there's no vandalism. So when we support this budget vote as the African National Congress, we don't support for the sake of support. It's because of tangible evidence on the ground. We want to take this opportunity, Honorable Musima Imani, and rest assured that spade work has been done in Limpopo to Gauteng, Gauteng to Limpopo. And we really appreciate your understanding. The blue train is on the pipeline, but we have sponsored a very good idea that we must also consider Free State. And you are very spot on, and that will be taken into account. These are the positive contributions that we need, Honorable Bloss. It'd be a very painful, you are still in pains, then you come here, you forgot that you are still mourning, and we want to mourn with you. We continue mourning with you, so take that serious. Don't take this for public speaking debate, then you come here as if we are so reckless, we can allow people to just vanish that way. As the African National Congress, we strongly believe that there is a lot that is happening in Transnet and improvement. And we strongly believe that the said and requested budget, if it be given accordingly and applied accordingly, which we are very much careful in ensuring that we follow every cent, Honorable Ghana. That is why we have got people who are suspended. That is why getting new people to come on board. We are following each and every cent in the interest of the public. So we are not reckless. So under the Minister, Fabrice and DM, your team chaired by the chair, Salam Lelo, who's very much capable. You know, it's not easy to be a chairperson of the portfolio where you are dealing with members who are the beginners in tasting the taste of being in the government. But he's trying very hard and he's really indeed making it. Therefore, as the African National Congress, we support this vote. Thank you so much, House Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Malimacha. Honorable Malimacha, can you go back to the podium? It appears that you indeed mentioned the name of Honorable Gama. I will have to ask you to withdraw. A reference to Honorable Gama will have to be withdrawn.
Chairperson, I wholeheartedly withdraw.
Thank you very much. The next speaker, order. The last and the next speaker will be the Honorable the Minister of Transport.
Let me start off and thank honorable members for all the important points that have been raised during the course of this debate. And indeed, we are mindful of the important issue that many honorable members raised of the centrality of the transport system to our economy. And I think it is for that reason that the entire ecosystem is working hard to fix the difficulties that we have and to ensure that we develop an efficient, cost-effective service for the movement of both people and goods. A number of honourable members have raised the question of vacant posts in the department and in the entities, including the chairperson. And Honourable Chair, we would want to say we agree with you that many of these posts have been vacant for far too long. I'm pleased to say for the first time in a long time, we now have a CEO for the rail safety regulator, and the CEO for SAMSA is in the cabinet system. We are currently recruiting for a director general of the department, as well as DDGs for corporate and roads. And we will ensure that these appointments are made with speed, because we agree with you, it is not appropriate to have vacant posts in the organization. However, there are constraints on filling all 15% of the vacant posts due to current constraints from National Treasury. So we are working hard to try and fill those posts which we regard to be strategically important. We also agree with you, Honourable Chair, and other members who've raised the issue of underspending. We are extremely concerned about underspending on conditional grants, and we're also concerned about underspending on the municipal infrastructure grant for road maintenance, because this underspending is responsible for the poor state of many municipal roads and bridges. We have accordingly formed a task team with SALGA that will be enabling us to tackle this underspending and making sure that we direct spending accordingly. Honourable Montana, I think you gave me a reasonably easy ride. I won't therefore talk about people who bought locos too big to fit in tunnels. We don't know who those people were. But let me say that in both the developed and the developing world.
Honorable Minister, can you please take your seat? Honorable Montana, what point are you raising up?
Is the Honourable Minister willing to take a question?
Honorable Minister, are you willing to take a question? I can't hear you, Honorable Minister.
Sorry, House Chair, at the end of my speech.
Thank you very much. You may proceed.
It's lots of fun. Honourable Montana, what I was saying is that in both developed and developing countries, this separation between freight operations and infrastructure managers has been implemented everywhere. Russia, China, India, Mexico, as well as all of those developed countries. The intention is to fund trim on a project basis through the budget facility for infrastructure. The first tranche of that requirement has already been put in. There will be a second application in October, and we're looking forward to success with regard to that application. Honourable Kobe, the Davidson line is coming. It's a very difficult rehabilitation. It's probably going to take us until the end of the 2026 financial year, but it is definitely on the agenda. Honourable Van Staden, we agree that the BRT is not an optimal project, and it was agreed at MINMEC on Friday that we need a review on all of the money that is within the transport ecosystem so that we can attend to it more appropriately. We agree with all honourable members that agency oversight is absolutely key if we're going to make sure that we spend appropriately, and that is why we're enhancing our facilities in this regard. Let me conclude by saying that we thank you for your support. We are not arrogant about the changes we are bringing about. We will continue to roll up our sleeves and work hard, and we believe that in due course, this will give us the results we need. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. You are done, Honorable Minister. Yeah. Honorable members.
Is the minister taking my question?
Unfortunately, the question has to be taken at that time. You can't take it after, it's not allowed. Honorable members, you are reminded that 2 debates are scheduled simultaneously today at 2 o'clock. That will be Stats SA budget vote debate, which will be held here at the Good Hope Chamber, and Human Settlement budget debate, which will be in room M48. That concludes the debate and the business of this mini plenary session. The mini plenary will now rise.
Room 46.